Secretary Mayorkas is failing to detain illegal aliens as required by law, releasing illegal aliens into the country. The law is clear. Illegal aliens shall. Secretary Mayorkas has released more than 1 million illegal aliens into the country. Most of these releases be heard from again. We don't know where they are, what they're doing. That's unacceptable. The narrow authority that Congress gave to him to parole aliens into the United States. The Nationality Act allows the Secretary to parole agents to the United States, case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit, close quote. Is using parole in a categorical, generic manner and not on a case-by-case. I expect the House Judiciary Committee to open an impeachment inquiry in the 118th Congress formally and finally to proceed to impeach him. The investigation will further prove that about Secretary Mayorkas. Every day Secretary Mayorkas remains in office, America becomes. Now I'll hand this off to someone I consider a good friend. He's the co-chair of the Border Security Caucus.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. I'm Brian Babbitt, and I represent the 36th District of Great. And it is an honor to co-chair the House Border Security Caucus with Andy Bigg from Arizona. 15,000 illegal aliens were apprehended crossing the southern border in the last 48 hours. $97 million worth of fees. We're a month, 1 month into the new fiscal year. More than half a million illegals have already been apprehended. Also, 300 are dying of deadly Chinese Mexican drug cartel produced over our southern border. If it's not already abundantly clear, this has forsaken his sworn oath to protect the homeland. I don't know when it's going to be. We've warned him to reverse course and to enforce the laws passed by the United States. But his quest to erase our southern border has simply persisted. Now, we will not allow this dereliction of duty to continue, and our future are absolutely on the line. Mayorkas has disgraced. He has abandoned his constitutional obligation and willfully, I might add, impeached immediately. Thank you.
I'm here in total and complete support of the effort led by my colleagues on the Border Security Caucus. Mayorkas. Impeachment is not a tool for incompetence. It is not a negligence. It is a tool for willful action to harm the country. And we see that each is. He has no plan to deport the more than 1 million people who have active entry. He has no plan to secure the border, and in fact, is fomenting chaos each plan. And that plan starts with impeachment, and it starts when we take power. I now welcome my colleague.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today, and thank you so much, Chairs Brian Babbitt and Andy Bigg, for leading this and addressing the issues that we're having here on the southern border. Now, let's get straight to the point. We had a secure border, and now we have a wide open border with million country. Many of them are criminals, bringing in deadly drugs that are killing devastating our communities. Many of them are known terrorists and MS-13. Under this administration's failed leadership, Customs and Border Patrol handcuffed by weak directives and horrific policies. Many have been assaulted and have even lost their lives due to Secretary open border policies. America is one of the most generous nations. 1 million legal immigrants every year. Myself and my colleagues moments when we welcome those people who did it right into our country is slapping each and every one of them in the face with his policies. Crime-filled immigrants have surged with homicides, assaults, domestic violence, all by illegal aliens increasing dramatically. Just 5 million illegal aliens crossed our border on Mayorkas's watch. 18,000 pounds of fentanyl was seized in fiscal year 2022. That is an all-time record high. And this, to address, Secretary Mayorkas has refused to address this crisis, but we regularly lies to the American people, claiming that the southern border is closed. I've been there, it's wide open. Secretary Mayorkas has failed to force the laws on the books, and the American people demand for what is happening at the border. House Republicans are in the majority now, and it's time not just speak about what is happening and the impeachment of Mayorkas to start. And I welcome the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, Congressman Kevin Hern.
I'd like to thank the co-chairs Babin and Biggs for the great work they're doing. I'm Kevin Hern, Representative District. I also serve on the Border Security Caucus, and it's really pretty important to see what. According to Title 18, Section 1001 of the United States Code, it's a felony to knowingly. That is, unless you work for Joe Biden. On November 15th, when asked by my Dan Bishop if the border is secure, Department of Homeland Security Secretary responded unequivocally, yes. Anyone with functioning eyes can tell you that that's. Yet Mayorkas repeatedly claims that the border is under control and the Biden administration is security. I'm not sure which border he's talking about, but it sure isn't the one. Every single day, unvetted migrants, illicit drugs, and all kinds of contraband border unchecked. The Biden administration is failing at their primary constitutional duty, security and sovereignty of our great nation. Each month that Joe Biden is in office, records on number of migrants crossing our southern border. During the 2022, 2 million people have crossed our southern border. That number is simply mind-boggling. This year, I led over 40 of my colleagues in calling for Secretary Mayorkas' resignation. He didn't listen. And the situation at the southern border has continued to get worse. In February, over 1.8 million people have been caught entering our country. Doesn't count the gotaways. Dozens of people on the terrorist watch list have been caught by the Customs and Border Patrol. And there's no telling how many others have gotten away. Number one killer of Americans 18 to 45 years old. It doesn't take a genius to figure into this country across our southern border. The cartels are becoming billionaires thanks to the Biden policy. The Biden administration can't keep ignoring the problem and hope it goes away. It worked before, and it's not about to start now. Like my colleagues here, I've been unlike President Biden, who said last week there were more important things in the world to deal with this border. It's clear that a change is needed. Impeaching Secretary Mayorkas to secure our southern border. Come January, Mayorkas is going to have a lot to answer for. Who's next?
Rodney Scott.
Now, former U.S. Border Chief Rodney Scott. Rodney, there you are.
Thank you. I was the chief of the United States Border Patrol when Alejandro Mayorkas became secretary. I learned very quickly not to trust Alejandro Mayorkas. His actions not match his actual actions. Or statements behind closed doors didn't match his actions. He did to America. As an example, in March of 2021, you'll remember he went on all this, and then he told everybody that the border was closed and the border was secure. And then I was given to say the same thing. Not only did I refuse, I questioned that statement, and I was told, we thought you would like hearing that. Well, I'm here to tell you today that the truth likes. The truth should be about facts and evidence, and that statement was not true then, and I know for a fact the Secretary got reports every day that proved that was not taking place. And tells America the border is secure, he's lying to them. Worse than that, when you go with the border secure, I think that deserves impeachment. Thank you.
Great, Stevie.
98 of the known terrorists that have been let into our country. I had the opportunity to serve our country as the chief of detainee operations for Multinational Division North. So I know a little something about terrorism and fighting terrorism. And in the Judiciary Committee, when we asked Secretary Mayorkas, did you release these notes? Not only did he say no, he refused to answer the question, which tells you that 98 known terrorists on the terrorist watch list are now released into our country. A higher crime than releasing known terrorists into our country. And it's time that we stop intentionally and deliberately violating federal law at the border every single day, and we're going to hold them accountable and impeach Secretary Mayorkas and bring change and shut the border down.
Thank you, Congressman Stevie, and thank you, Congressman Biggs, leading on this issue and demanding desperately needed accountability. The out-of-control border is indeed a self-inflicted wound by the Biden administration, by their harmful open. For the past 2 years, Democrats here in Washington have turned a blind eye to the chaos that they have created. Customs and Border Protection agents manning the crisis are left to bear the brunt of the left. The result is that every community across our country becomes a border town and hunt every single day from fentanyl overdoses. Fentanyl, one of the most addictive and deceptively smuggled over the open border. Americans simply deserve better. They deserve a safe and secure nation, and they deserve accountability. I advise clear his calendar, because accountability is exactly what's coming when House Republicans January the 3rd. I look forward to working with my colleagues in the 118th Congress to Mayorkas' atrocious decisions, and then to impeach him for his devastating dereliction of duty. This is for certain. Secretary Mayorkas is responsible. Must go. Thank you, and I yield to the gentleman from Alabama, Congressman Barry Moore.
Thank you, Chairman Biggs and Chairman Babin. In the private sector, if you don't do your job, you and the media would agree with that, I think. In October, there were 230,000 illegal immigrants encountered at our southern border. That's more than the total population of Alabama. Does that sound like the Secretary of the Homeland Security, Mayorkas, is doing his job? Mayorkas. Congress needs to do it for him. The truth is, President Biden doesn't seem to. He said last week he had more important things to tend to deal with. His president said Biden had been to the border. I've been a couple of times myself. I'd encourage him and his whole take a look at just the travesty that is the southern border. The American people care deeply about the border, the fentanyl, the human trafficking, the impact that it's having on our community. Hold this administration accountable by impeaching Mayorkas. One way or the other, be fired. With that, I'll yield to former U.S. Immigration Customs. Oh, we're going to yield it. Randy Weber from Texas.
I thank the gentleman. Some of y'all heard me speak at the last press conference. I spent 4 on the committee, my last term vice chairman. It was unsafe. Were hurt, killed, maimed, raped, robbed, stolen, homes burglarized. It's still unsafe. And that is in Mayorkas. We are facing an invasion at the southern border at the hands. Mayorkas knows full well that the border crisis has endangered the entire folks. Here's the facts. He simply does not care. He doesn't care about families at the border. He doesn't care for that pouring across our border. He doesn't care about our sovereignty as a nation. Just flat doesn't care. Our border is an absolute and it's on his watch. Texans are sick of this, and the Americans are getting sick of this. And we are no longer turning a blind eye. It's been said here, Mayorkas has acted with impeachable conduct. Failed to secure our border and has thus endangered Americans. He has failed, and in doing so, he has violated the very oath he took to uphold the Constitution of a great country. Mayorkas is bad for Texas. Mayorkas is bad at his job, and Mayorkas must go. He's got to go, Mr. Mayorkas. Like they said, don't take the list to the next speakers. Thank you. Like they said, he's got to go, and accountability is on the way. Thank you.
Thanks for all these great patriots for being here, and Mark Morgan, my good friend, who was head of us how to secure the border. We all know how to secure the border. We put out a plan last week, the Texas delegation, right here. We know what to do, and that's why we're here right now about Mayorkas. He knows what to do, literally refusing to do it, purposefully. With all due respect to my colleagues, this isn't about not getting his job done. This is about a guy who is purposefully endangering the American people, and he's doing so for crass political purposes, using them as pawns. Nothing. This is a high crime and misdemeanor. You bet he should be impeached. You bet that is the tool that we have Congress to exercise its right to stand up and stop an executive branch that is trampling the American 72,000 dead Americans. You all know the numbers. We can go through all the numbers. How about the text that Texas? I'm getting seriously concerned about Title 42 ending. We've had 5 groups on us and 6 groups if we count the last 10 days. 2 groups yesterday. It's like that on us where it's a really bad sign. And no one, sheriff or DPS, is able to respond. What am I supposed to promise you? Texans aren't going to put up with this anymore. And this body, this Congress, this Republican-led Alejandro Mayorkas accountable. He needs to be fired. He needs to be removed from office. These are lives that are at stake. I'm proud to stand here with these guys to hold him accountable. Get that. It's purposeful. I yield back.
Thank you all for coming out today. This is a very serious issue, and we've been facing it for nearly 2 years. And Secretary Mayorkas took over his role. He came out and for months declared they had time to implement my plan. Well, he did implement that plan, and that's what we've been screaming. And it's the willful violation of the law and malice people of the United States. I'm from Montana. I represent the entire state right now. Border state with a southern border problem. I met with my attorney general, and the fentanyl cases, deaths that are taking place have increased by 1,100% since this. This is unacceptable. It's destroying our nation. It's destroying a generation of young people. The human trafficking issues that we're dealing with that are ravaging our reservations in Montana, and the additional increase in crime that are taking place across the state that are to all these problems that are coming from this open, porous southern border. I stand with these people that are trying to bring law and order back to the southern border. Thank you, and I would yield now to Carter. Thank you.
You know, everybody here has made an accusation, and they're worth us all thinking about them in a very big way. courtroom trying to uphold our Constitution. Incredible evidence. We need to take these accusations, using in our committees to gather credible evidence, present that credibly. Listening Congress, I believe we have an impeachment against. So I'm supporting this because it's time to start, quit talking, to get rid of the people who will not help keep our America. It's their duty. So I'm proud to appear with all these colleagues behind me. I agree with. Thank you.
Ralph Norman from South Carolina. Folks, I wish all of you in the media could have seen a note that a retired agent showed us at a podcast. Page after page, front and back of our fentanyl. And this president says this is not a problem? Really? The future? It's a problem. Not only do we have an invasion to the team before this administration's done, that's 5 football stadiums every 30 days, folks. 5 being released in this country and being put in different areas all over America. We are all, it's time for Mayorkas to go. When asked the question, is the border secure? He said, will you define unsecure? He didn't say a word. The man, truth is at stake. I'm proud to join my colleagues to be. It's time for Mayorkas to get another job. Thank you so much. And I ask now Bob Good.
Thank you, Congressman Babin and Congressman Biggs, for leading this effort. He's created by the Biden administration. It's difficult to signal out which one is the worst of all the crises. That the border invasion is the worst of all. 5 million illegals invading our country. In the known gotaways, 1 million of those are known gotaways. Those who are evading apprehension, they don't want to be ID, they don't want to be fingerprinted, they don't want to be background checked because of their terrorist criminal across our border. Meanwhile, we've got Secretary Mayorkas lying to Congress and more American people. I've been to the border 5 times in my first 2 years. I've never seen President, Vice President Harris, and we meet with Border Patrol. They tell you the Democrats don't come. They're not interested in American people to know about the invasion they're facilitating at our border, violating Article 4 that said it's the responsibility of the federal government to keep the states safe from invasion. If any, Secretary Mayorkas, we cannot let this go on for another 2 years. A Republican would impeach Secretary Mayorkas as the first step to beginning to secure our border. And now I turn it over to Indiana.
Good afternoon. You know, a month ago, Secretary Mayorkas said that the southern border is secure. And yet this weekend alone, U.S. Border Patrol reported that there have been at least 16,000 documented over the weekend, and that's 8,000 per day. 2 years, we've watched the crisis at our southern border while President Biden's Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Mayorkas, has made 0 policy changes to secure it. In a recent hearing, when asked by Representative Jim Jordan, suspected terrorists have been released into our country afterward, and the Secretary said he didn't know. National security. And Secretary Mayorkas' management of the country has threatened our national security. With less 1 week before Title 42, which will accordingly exacerbate the situation at our southern border, to find a DA secretary that can take care of this situation.
And now, welcome the former acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director.
Good afternoon, President Trump. Look, I've been at this immigration enforcement since 1984. I climbed the ranks to be the first acting director of ICE. Actually came up through the ranks. I innocent justice. After 9/11, they put it on DHS. I have worked for 9 secretaries of Homeland Security. I have worked for 6 presidents. Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas is the first cabinet official that came into office in unsecured a border. Full fact. Every president I've worked for, even Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, took so they understood, as you just heard, you can't have national security without border security. Alejandro Mayorkas is the most secure border we ever had. I don't care what your opinion is on illegal immigration. It's big. They take 70 to 80% of agents off the line. It creates a national border patrols arresting people from 161 countries. Many of these countries are sponsors that they've arrested 116 of them trying to sneak in the country. There's over 1 million recorded gotaways. 21 countries, some of them sponsor terrorism, over 1 million recorded gotaways. Well, those 1 million people gotaways came here to do us harm. Kissing, then you're a fool. Just got to play the percentages. I don't know how the terrorists have crossed the border since Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas has been in power. Now, it's going to be a bad day for America. What's happening on the border is the biggest national security failure since 9/11. That's just.
Appreciate Tom, Rodney's, and Mark here in a moment. But let me tell you, I had people for negligent homicide, for willful reckless of human life. Well, that is not what's going on here. And knowing disregard for human life, for the protection of our country, we have had him come before Congress and lie under oath. That's perjury. Is the kind of malfeasance for which he should be removed. Over 100 of fentanyl that's come across our southern border. This has got to. If anyone cares about human life and human suffering, be encouraged. The perjury, the intentional allowing murders with fentanyl, it's got to stop, be removed, and that needs to be business one on day one in the next Congress. So much the efforts of everybody here, and Michael Cloud, my friend from Texas. Michael.
To go. There's no other way about it. The Secure 16 tasks him with protecting and securing our border, maintaining operation control, prevention of all unlawful entries into the United States, including entries by terrorists and other instruments of terrorism, narcotics, and other contraband. He's failed completely. He's lied under oath about doing so. He's not only failed at doing it, he's worked to in the trafficking of humans and drugs into our communities. He's canceled that were signed in the previous administration that we appropriated funds for building at the border and building a wall, building technology, putting all that in place. He's canceled the contract is to faithfully execute the laws that we pass. He's continued to squander his secure our border. He's gone beyond just breaking and not fulfilling the law. He even went as far as to the good men and women working to secure the border. We can talk about the horse incident where you had people protecting the job and he slandered their good intentions and them doing their job. He's failed at every single step. Every day in my South Texas community, I get a text from some sheriff about another bailout, another young men and women are abused, another fentanyl seizure today in school. And this is what it said: the sheriff's office notified the campus of reports of legal aliens be armed and dangerous. This is happening in the communities in our United States. Refuses to do his job and protect the communities in this country. Has to be removed.
I'm Doug LaMalfa from California, yet another porous border state. Look, we've all seen they're horrific. It's indeed, I hate how it's called migrant, an illegal immigrant invasion that is happening to our country. Mayorkas says not a problem. What is this? A Jedi mind trick? These are not the illegal immigrants you're looking for. Go on about your business. It's ridiculous. They're lying to the American people, and they think they're lying to people are not being fooled by what they're doing. I visited my own border in San Ysidro. It works well. I visited Mr. Biggs district down there in Arizona, where they have gaps in the fence and it all. The people walk right past you, practically smiling. And they also have vans that pick people up and bring them to the processing centers, basically welcome wagons to speeding them into the country. The president last spring promised to fill, it was left unconstructed. Small gaps would make the job for the Border Patrol much easier that I know of. So instead, we have a situation where, why don't we have instead asked the president, asked the administration to remove, they removed the little dude with the stealing the suitcases here recently. Now we have millions of people in their suitcase loads of stuff, and we're going to just let that go. I call on the Biden administration to remove Mayorkas. Otherwise, we'll do our job here when we get the majority.
Hi, I'm Debbie Lesko. Last week, President Biden visited my district. He visited the Thai Manufacturing Corporation. And when he was asked, well, while you're here in Arizona, are you going to visit the border? He said, oh, no, to do. Well, I'm going to quote President Biden, what he often said. Oh, come on, man. I mean, really. Secretary Mayorkas has proven that he is nothing short of failure. He has lied to Congress and the American people. The border is secure. He has not only allowed the invasion unchecked, but he has actively made it worse. Million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border under Secretary Mayorkas. That's more than twice the population of Phoenix, Arizona, times the population of the entire state of Delaware, where President Biden. Men, women, and children are being trafficked by criminal cartels, have also smuggled illegal, deadly drugs like fentanyl, and are killing thousands of Americans each and every day. Mayorkas has sat idly by and done nothing illicit in these criminal enterprises. The evidence: Mayorkas is unfit to serve as the Secretary of Homeland Security, and inaction need to be investigated, and if there, he needs to be impeached. And with that, I'd like to acting U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan.
First of all, I want to say, as a former acting commissioner of United States Customs and Border Patrol, I am here today shoulder to shoulder with every single congressional member that stands here today. Acting Director of ICE, Tom Holman, United States Border Patrol Chief Rodney impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas. Everybody standing here today took the same oath of office to and protect this country, this great country, from the vast complex threat today. We understand that the rule of law is not a catchphrase. It has meaning. It's one of the elements of this great country. We understand that our nation's sovereignty is, and it means something, and we should not forsake that for political gain. And we safety and national security of this country should be our prime goal, and our oath demands that of us. American citizen demands that of us. And what you makes a clear case. We don't need an investigation. Secretary Mayorkas needs to go. His responsibility. He has abandoned his oath. He is the antithesis of what the Americans in their Secretary of Homeland Security. He's served in this administration their open border policies that we know has resulted in drugs pouring across Americans every single day. Criminal aliens pouring across our open borders out this great nation. The list goes on. Tom Holman talked about the national security threat. Literally, it's not hyperbolic to say the next sleeper cell could be in the next terrorist attack, and we would have absolutely no idea, and that is in part because complete abdication of his constitutional responsibilities. How many more migrants have to die before enough is enough? He has lied to Congress. He refuses to enforce the law. And what's really disgusting for me, intentionally and knowingly vilify his own men and women. He got up to the White House and used a bully pulpit, and he knew those Border Patrol agents didn't whip anybody. He knew it was a lie, and he still got out American people. It's disgusting. It's despicable. It's irresponsible. And I don't want to hear that, hey, what can we do? Look, the American people didn't vote for Secretary Mayorkas. He was placed there. Well, he can be removed. And his reign of terror should end. And I hope on day one, come January, that every Republican United States House of Representatives shows the same political courage, strength, women stand behind me, and they do what is necessary and remove this man and replace Homeland Security that's going to leave his ideology and his politics at the door and do his job, security and national security of this country on day one. Thank you.
We thank everybody for coming today. Like we've kind of exhausted time. I'm sure that there are members here who would be willing to take individual questions, but I just want to conclude by saying this. You've heard a vast array of charges and explanations about workers needs to be impeached and removed. The reality is there's nothing up here that's actual. And we need to adjudicate Secretary. We have to do it in a proper way. We don't do it the way the other side does it. Let them come in, we'll have due process, we'll conduct our investigation. But I am confident is concluded. The facts that we've adduced today, we've revealed to you today, a mystery to anybody whose eyes are open. They will agree that he should be impeached. With that, thank you, sir.